coaches on his staff, he was always true to himself.
He really was, and maybe the best example of that, Shannon, was the fact that every time we'd walk into his office for a pregame press meeting, Jim might be laying on the couch. He might have a blanket over him, but he was never really at his desk or at a podium. He was just him, and if you didn't like it, well, that was kind of too bad, because Jim was going to be Jim, and you kind of learned to love that part of his personality. But he's also one of those guys that you could approach away from the game and talk about life, talk about your kids. A genuine person, really a unique person, and certainly some guy that I'll miss now for years to come. He was fun to be around.
He was fun to be around. I do miss him as well. I have a lot of memories. Do you have a favorite memory that sticks out of your relationship with Jim?
You know, I really don't have that one specific memory. I guess if I have to pick one, it had to be a couple of years ago in Toronto on a Sunday after a night game, a Saturday night game in Toronto at Sky Dome, or Rogers Center now. He just walked into the clubhouse. Everybody was kind of dragging. He started moonwalking. And I thought to myself, look at this guy moonwalking in the middle of the dugout here, or the middle of the locker room, I should say. And it was kind of different, and I think that set the tone. But beyond that, it was maybe the chats that we would have in a coffee shop before a game where we wouldn't talk baseball at all. It was just talking life. And to me, that's the stuff that sticks in my mind about Jim Leyland.
All right, fingers crossed we see a little moonwalking today as he heads out to the mound. Mario Impemba and Rod Allen, of course, calling the game today for the Tigers and Twins matchup. And hopefully Jim Leyland will be joining them in the broadcast booth a little bit later in the game as well. Still plenty more to come on Tigers Live before game time. Coming up next, Craig Monroe takes a little trip down memory lane to one of his favorite seasons as a Tiger. We're going to play Fair or Foul next after a short break. Craig Monroe, it never gets old. We both just sat here and I was like, oh, I have chills. And it's funny because anytime I see that or we talk about that moment with Maglio back in 2006, I always find that fans, that's like one of their top favorite moments of things that have happened in Tigers history. In today's Fair or Foul, we're going to do a little reminiscing of the 2006 series. It's also our Miller Lite breakdown. So our first Fair or Foul question is, Fair or Foul, 2006, the Tigers were the most talented team in the American League.
Shannon, that is foul. And I will say this, guys. We had a lot of good players on that team. Pudge Rodriguez, Maglio Ordonez, Carlos Guillen. And I wasn't so bad. But we had determination. We wasn't the best team, but we just believed. There was 25 guys inside that clubhouse that just believed that we can get the job done, and that's exactly what we did. We all challenged each other. We pushed each other to get better. And throughout the season, with Jim Leyland's assistant, with his help being at the top, just really pushed us to be the team that we were in 2006.
You guys beat the A's in the ALCS, then had a week off before you have to play the Cards. Fair or foul, the layoff cost you guys the World Series.
Tiger fans, I know you don't want to hear my excuse, but it's fair, Shannon. It is fair. Baseball is a game of repetition. You have to play it every day. And you heard guys talk about it early in the season thus far, where you try to find rhythm. You have a day off. You have rain delays, and these guys couldn't find their rhythm. Well, that's exactly what we experienced during a long layoff. You can't muster up and make believe 40,000 people in the stands. The competition, being in the World Series. You had this dream your whole childhood life of playing in the World Series, and you get a chance to do it. The nerves were there, and you know what? You have to tip your hat to the Cardinals. They came out, they played great baseball, and unfortunately, I lost.
Sometimes when it gets the postseason, you just have to like keep on trucking, you know?
Yeah, you want to
just carry that momentum as far as you can, and then if you lose it, sometimes it's hard to gain that magic back. Keep on trucking, as I feel like something that Rod Allen would say, right? Another thing Rod Allen would say is country strong.
Country strong. Fair
or foul, you are more country strong than your buddy Marcus Timms.
That is absolutely foul.
Guys,
Guys, let me tell you, Marcus Tim is a big boy. Everybody says we look alike and we're close. No. He's 6'3", 240 pounds of straight strength. He drives the ball. Even when he hits the ball, he hits it out to left field. When he really gets it, you've seen balls go out to dead center. We call that going to the bushes. Well, Marcus made it a daily routine that he would hit balls in the bushes, and that's just too far. So, no, Marcus Tim is country strong and forever be in Detroit known as country strong.
Well, I think you're country strong because we get to hang out all the time. Where is Marcus Timms now? Marcus
Tim is a AA hitting instructor for the New York Yankees, and I've talked to him several times, and he's loving it, guys. He has found his niche. He loves talking and helping these young kids get to the big leagues, and I look forward to seeing Marcus Timms one day being a big league hitting instructor.
When you look back at that video, too, I love watching Jim Leyland, the finger up, Dave Dombrowski, everybody excited. You had a chance to sit down with Jim Leyland. I'm not going to lie, I was jealous. I wanted to do the interview, but Craig Monroe got it. You sat down with Jim. Can you give us a little taste of what that was like? We're going to hear from him in just a little bit, but
well,
what are some of the highlights?
Don't be jealous, Shannon.
I'm sorry.
I was honored to have the opportunity to talk to the old Skip. And you know what? He made me feel right at home the same way he did when I played for him. He made me believe that I was better than I actually was. And in that interview, he told me, relax, don't be nervous, let's just talk. And you know what? It was a great interview, and it really brought back some. I didn't want to break down and have my little tears, you know, trying not to be soft.
He's like Jim, he's a crier.
I am. It was such a great moment for me to sit down with Jim Leyland and have that interview.
Well, Jim Leyland led the Tigers to the World Series twice. He helped secure several division titles here in Detroit. His raw emotion captured the hearts of the fans in Michigan. Hear from the fans as they join together to thank Jim and remember the good times here at Comerica Park when we return.
Day one of spring training, I told him, you know, don't get caught up in the expectations. Get caught up in how we're going to live up to those expectations. And I think that's what they've done. And I want to say thank you to our fans. I'm so proud of you for what you've done for our ball club and what you've done for me since I've been here. And I just hope that you feel like you're getting your money's worth. Because we try to entertain you. You keep coming out. I can't tell you what you mean to us. It's like a sixth man.
Well, Jim Leyland always had respect for the great fans here in Detroit, even if he didn't always love them questioning his lineup on a day-to-day basis. But those fans had a mutual affection for Jim Leyland as well, and almost 42,000 will be here at Comerica Park today for the Salute to Jim to say thank you. Lindsay Hayes had a chance to catch up with some of those fans earlier this morning, and let's check in with Lindsay, who's on the field now. Hi, Linz.
Hi, Shannon. It was so fun to take a walk down memory lane with the fans today. They really say that Jim Leyland is a legend because he's the last of his kind. Many loved how genuine he was, often very, very blunt, but they said they liked he didn't give the politically correct answer. They also liked that he made arguing with an art form, and they said that he was funny. They, too, like Mario and Pemba, liked the moonwalk in Motown. But most of all, they said that they loved that he made them feel appreciated.
When we won the American League Championship against the Yankees, and the final game when we won, he circled the whole field, shaking hands with all the fans that were at the guardrails. And just that emotion that he got caught up in, because it's his team, whether he's managing or playing, he's still part of the team. And he was just so personable with the guys, and he had close relationship with the guys, and I've seen him get emotional on interviews about his players.
His heart and his compassion the last couple of years, tearing up when winning the division or getting further into the playoffs. I mean, just, you know, since 06, you know, we're still battling to get in the World Series and win it again.
And another fan favorite was back in 2006 against the Yankees, and it was in the 7th inning stretch when he was in a heated debate with the umpire. He stopped and paused, listened to the song God Bless America, tipped his hat. But then as soon as the song was over, he was back into that heated debate, and that is just one of many memories of Jim Leyland. And the Detroit Tigers also want all the fans to share their favorite memories today by going onto Twitter and using the hashtag Thanks, Jim. Shannon, back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Lindsay. Lindsay Hayes handling post-game duties for us on Tigers Live post-game right here on Fox Sports Detroit. Max Scherzer on the mound for the Tigers today, and if you are a Mad Max fan, you for sure want to be here for the game Thursday, June 5th, when the Tigers face the Toronto Blue Jays at 1:08 p.m. The first 15,000 fans receive a free Max Scherzer 2013 Cy Young Award bobblehead. For tickets, call 866-66-TIGER or visit tigers.com. Greg Monroe was a busy guy this morning. He got the coveted sit-down with Jim Leyland. When we return to Tigers Live, Simo and his former manager one-on-one as we creep closer to the Salute to Jim ceremony coming up on Tigers Live. It's going to be a packed house today for Game 2 of this three-game set against divisional foe, the Minnesota Twins. But for the fans that are here, they're here more to see more than the Mizzou matchup between Max Scherzer and Kyle Gibson. While the two starters are having a little bit of a college reunion, the rest of the stadium is excited to see another old friend, and that is, of course, Jim Leyland, who will be throwing out the first pitch after a quick salute to him before the game gets going. And Craig Monroe had a chance to sit down with his former manager earlier this morning.
All right, first of all, I want to thank Skip, my old skipper, for coming and doing this interview for me.
Old is the right word.
I don't know. Still looking good, though. But, Skip, first of all, I was on a team in 2003 here in Detroit to where we lost 119 games. The Tigers go out and they sign Mr. Jim Leyland, and you change the culture, and you changed it really quick in Detroit. How did you do that?
Well, when I came here, I knew they had a good players, but I knew they obviously didn't have a good team at the time. So that was really my theme, you know, change good talent to good team. And we were able to do that because the guys started to believe in themselves. I can remember, as you remember, going into spring training, I said, look, I don't idolize anybody, but look, we need to take the field like the New York Yankees, with a little swagger, with a little belief in ourselves. And for whatever reason, it caught on pretty quick, and obviously we did okay.
You know what, I remember that too, just it was like it was yesterday. I got that letter that you sent us, and you talked about exactly what you just said, taking the field with some swagger, and we started to do that. Well, you know all the players love you, and you know that you're known as a player's manager. How did you be the boss, but still be so loved by us?
Well, I think it's a team, but I think you have to take everybody on an individual basis. In other words, what works for Craig Monroe, what gets the best out of Craig Monroe might not necessarily get the best out of Pudge Rodriguez. So I think you have to spend the time to get to know the players as a person and what makes them tick. And you try to do that by having conversations, not behind closed doors, but in the outfield, walking around, talking, how's the family, how's everybody doing, what's going on with you, you know, things of that nature. And the guys picked up on it pretty good. I mean, this was a perfect situation to come into. This team was ready to start going. And the same with Brad this year. You know, he's got a good foundation here. He's doing a tremendous job. It's a different type team. But it's just learning the personalities of people more so than the talent of the players.
All right. And I just want to say that in 2006, for the first time, you believed. I had a manager that believed. They put me in a situation where I felt like I was better than I actually was. And you were the big part of that. So.
Well, to be honest with you, if you remember that year, I'm old, but I got a good memory. You know, I can remember a lot of things. And I actually thought you got one of the biggest hits of the year that year. In the second game of the doubleheader at Yankee Stadium, you hit a home run to left field in Yankee Stadium that salvaged us that split in that game up there. That was one of the biggest games of the year for the Detroit Tigers.
Scott Proctor. Yep. I remember it.
No, I got a memory like an elephant.
I was sitting there. I was looking for it. I was looking for a fastball. But I just had a feeling that he's going to throw me that breaking ball, and I did. I took a good swing, and that seems like when it kind of started for us.
There's no question about it. Like I said, that's been one of the biggest hits in my Tiger career, was that second game of that doubleheader, because we were in trouble. And we salvaged that second game, and that turned a lot of things around for us.
Well, thank you, Skip, for taking the time and talking with me.
Great seeing you, buddy.
Always good to see you. Right, always dear to my heart, buddy. Thank you. I love you to death.
All right, pal. Thank you.
See, no need to be nervous. That was fantastic.
I mean, you know, it's the first time.
It was good.
Jim.
It was good. You know, one thing you mentioned to me just the other day that I thought was interesting, since we're talking about the 2006 team, is the team chemistry that they have in the clubhouse now with the Zubas and just the overall feel. You feel like that's a little reminiscent of 06.
I really do, Shannon. I felt that when I went to the Detroit Athletic Club at Motor City Casino. It was a great event, and I told you this before. If you missed it, you missed a treat. The guys they showed their personality. They showed you exactly how they act inside the clubhouse, how tight they are inside the clubhouse, and it did. It just had a smile on my face the whole time I was there, because it reminded me of how tight our 2006 team was.
Well, the salute to Jim Leyland is just around the corner, but for now we're going to head back to the Coliseum Studios and check in with Justin White. Hi, Justin.
Hey, Shannon, thanks a lot. Tigers and Twins, as you said, coming up in just a few minutes. But first, we'll take you back to Comerica Park, where the Tigers are about to honor Jim Leyland. All the festivities coming up right after this.
Welcome back to Comerica Park. A big day today before the game even gets going. Jim Leyland back in the house saying hello to some of his friends. Played a little catch there with Justin Verlander. Leyland has returned to Detroit and will be honored on the field in just a matter of moments. And even though he is no longer the Tigers skipper after spending 8 years here in Detroit, he has stayed involved, talking with Brad Ausmus, talking with some of the players and the coaches, keeping his heart beat right here in Detroit, and of course watching all the games. He's going to be joined now on the field by some good friends. Let's join Bob Vergils, the PA announcer for the special ceremony.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, please turn your attention to the video board in left field as we look back on the Detroit Tigers managerial career of Jim Leyland.
I informed my players Saturday night after the game in Boston that I would not be returning. I didn't know how to take it when they clapped. I wasn't sure if they...
Even at the end of his remarkable tenure as a manager of the Detroit Tigers, Jim Leyland was humble and self-deprecating. Of course, 700 wins, 4 postseason appearances, and 2 World Series appearances tell a different story.
Jim Leyland, you know, when you first see him, everybody's got that image.
Just from the moment I met him, you know, you could just tell he was a great manager.
You know, got to play for him my first spring in 2006, and quite honestly, I was a little intimidated.
You know, fiery kind of in your face type of guy.
He always want to do everything right. When I do everything, he can do the best. That's the way he is.
He orchestrated and he made everybody march to the same beat. He knew how to manage a clubhouse, he knew how to manage a game, and he knew how to do all that, but he did it at such a level that allowed us to all be ourselves.
In 2006, Jim Leyland took over a team that had won just 71 games the year before.
Somebody was going to manage this team. And I'm glad it's me. I never say we got to win this game, or I never ask my team to win, but I demand that my team prepare to win.
With their new skipper at the helm, the Tigers would post a 95-win season before capturing the American League pennant.
Look at Leyland, look at the Tigers. What a great scene here at Comerica Park in Detroit.
You know, I remember early in 2006, you know, we started off great, and then we had a little lull in the middle of the season there, and he had a post-game talk with us, and you know, told us like it is, you know, and you know, he said we've been used to a losing atmosphere here, and he's not going to let that happen. You know, we need to carry ourselves like we're supposed to win. And I think that's one of the things he brought over to this organization.
I just can't express what a thrill it's been to work for Mr. Ilitch. When I took this job 8 years ago, when I walked in his office, I said one thing to him. I said, I'll do a good job for you, and that's all I said. I came here to make talent a team, and I think we did that.
His impact in Detroit will continue to be felt for years to come, including the smiles from his former players when you mention his name.
He always go out there and say something to you, talking trash.
I remember he'd always come out to me in the outfield, and you know when he's coming, you see him, he's got this little smirk on his face. He starts walking out there with his mungo bat, and he spit out this joke, and nobody laughed harder at his jokes than he did, though. You know, we had a great relationship, him and I, and, you know, I love him. He's the only manager I've had, and I love playing for him.
22 seasons as a big league manager, and a mile-long list of players who loved and respected him has left Jim Leyland with just one wish unfulfilled.
Oh, I've
really hope, this sounds kind of selfish, but I hope within the next 2 or 3 years, I get a chance to throw out the first pitch at Comerica Park.
And now, please welcome him back to Comerica Park to throw out today's ceremonial first pitch. Always number 10, Jim Leyland. Special presentation to Jim Leyland. Please welcome to the field Tigers pitcher Justin Verlander, first baseman Miguel Cabrera, and Tigers president, CEO, and general manager David Dombrowski.
Jim, what memories? That video, to me, it says it all. The great memories that you helped provide with your leadership to all Detroit Tiger fans and our organization has been phenomenal. Thank you. Well, as you said, there's no question that you turned talent into a team throughout your whole time period here. We have shared some of the greatest moments in Detroit Tiger baseball history and will forever be thankful to you for this. So, as a special thanks from Mr. Illich, who's right up there for us, Mr. I. And the Detroit Tigers organization, we want to present this special piece of artwork to you that I'm going to read the words that I know will also be some special memories for you. So go ahead, Justin and Miguel. The special picture that reads, 2 World Series appearances in 2006 and 2012. 3 straight American League Central Division championships. 700 wins, highest winning percentage for a Tigers manager with more than 1,000 games. Attendance surpassed 3 million fans 4 times. So Jim, to you, to Katie, to the rest of your family that are always members of the Detroit Tigers organization, thank you for all you have done. Congratulations and well done job. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be very brief today. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Mike Illich and Dave Dombrowski for allowing me to be here today to let you know how much I appreciated your support during my 8 years as manager of your Detroit Tigers. We shared some special moments together, both from a team perspective as well as some individual performances. 4 postseason of playoff appearances, a game 163 against today's opponent, my good friend Ron Gardenhire and the Minnesota Twins. Cy Youngs, MVPs, and the most coveted of them all, a triple crown by the greatest hitter in baseball history.
I will always love you for your dedication to Tiger baseball. And for me, you gave me many, many special memories, and I will never forget you for that. And I thank you for that. Now let's enjoy Brad Osmus, his coaching staff, and the 2014 version of our beloved Tigers. Thank you very much, and God bless Tiger fans.
And fans, let's hear it one more time for Jim Leyland.
Great ceremony there on the field. Honest and real emotion from Jim Leyland. Jim, welcome home to Detroit. The people of the city will always welcome you with open arms. And for now, Tigers baseball is beginning right now on Fox Sports Detroit.
The following is a presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Fox Sports. We are Detroit.
Tigers baseball on Fox Sports Detroit is presented by
Bell Tire.
Today at Comerica Park, we honor the man that brought 3 straight division titles, 2 World Series appearances, and 700 wins as a skipper in a Tigers uniform. Jim Leyland honored here at the ballpark today on a beautiful day for baseball here in the Motor City. The Detroit Tigers and the Minnesota Twins in Game 2 of this 3-game series. Hi again, everyone. Welcome to Tigers Baseball. Mario and Pemba, Ron Allen, glad to have you with us. And Ron, a special day here at the ballpark today. Always good to see the skipper in town.
No doubt about that. He changed the culture here in Detroit. He taught this organization what winning was all about. If you're an opposing manager going up against Jim Leyland, you know you had to bring your A game that day because he was going to be on top of his game. I enjoyed him thoroughly.
All right, Twins are going to have to bring their A game today because Max is on the mound for Detroit.
Well, Max has been outstanding, really. 2 years running now since the beginning of 2012. Probably the best right-hander in the game. He's got lethal stuff from that arm angle he throws from. Real good secondary pitches. He'll be challenged today against the Minnesota Twins. It's a pesky group led by their manager, Ron Gardenhire.
And the Tigers hoping for a win here in Game 2 in the series. Right now, back to the Call Sam Studios we go, and Justin White.
All right, Mario, thanks. And yes, the best way the Tigers can honor Jim Leyland today, go out there and beat those Minnesota Twins. First pitch and lineups are coming up right after this from Comerica Park. Enjoy the game, everybody.
It is a spectacular day for baseball here in the Motor City. Max Scherzer running out to the mound, getting set to make his 8th start of this 2014 campaign. And Max Scherzer today will face the Minnesota Twins. Here is their starting lineup presented by the Metro Detroit Chevy dealer. Dozier, Suzuki, and Mauer at the top 3. Mauer the DH today, followed by Colabello, Parmalee, and Nunez. And a bottom 3 of Escobar, Aaron Hicks, and Danny Santana rounding out the lineup for Minnesota. And Max Scherzer presented by Family Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
And Max has that fastball right around 95, 96 miles an hour. Real good curveball, slider, and a changeup. Off to a fantastic start. Sub-2 ERA. 4-1 record.
And a whip under 1 is Brian Dozier leads it off here for the Twins. Minnesota won the opening game of the series last night. 2-1 the final score. See what the Tigers can do here this afternoon. Dozier looks at a ball outside, and the count goes to 2 balls and no strikes. Suzuki and then Mauer to follow. On a beautiful afternoon for baseball here in the Motor City. Here's the 2-0 pitch. And it's outside again. 3 balls and no strikes on Dozier. Scherzer in search of his 5th victory of the season. Start number 8 on the year. Here's the 3-0. And it's a strike called up with the right hand. Goes Joe West. 3-1 now on the Minnesota leadoff man with Kurt Suzuki waiting on deck. Dozier looks at a strike again, and the count fills at 3-2. Dozier in the ball game last night had a good night. Was on base 4 times, couple of hits, couple of walks. And down he goes. Max fell behind 3-0, comes back to strike out Dozier.
And Max's fastball about 95 miles an hour has little running action on it, and right-handers will tell you that it is very difficult to pick up the fastball that Max is featuring. He has that little turn with his upper body, then all of a sudden he has a fast arm. That ball comes out of his hand very nicely, and at that velocity from that arm slot, very tough to pick up.
Here's the number 2 hitter, Kurt Suzuki, who last night was 2 out of 5, and of course drove in the Minnesota 2 runs. Big RBI single with 2 outs late in the game, and that's all the Twins would need. Suzuki now with 24 driven in this year, and he's been a fine sign for the Minnesota Twins.
Suzuki got the big hit last night, but Phil Hughes, he was outstanding. And their starting pitcher for his 2nd consecutive start against Detroit this year really handcuffed him. They could do nothing against him.
And really 4 consecutive starts overall for Phil Hughes. That was really good.
And Minnesota Twins were saying today that's the best game Phil Hughes has pitched this year.
Slapped down the right field line, foul.
And here's that knock that Suzuki got against Justin Verlander. It was a pitching duel between Verlander and Hughes until Suzuki stepped up with the bases loaded, got a 93-mile-per-hour fastball, and hit it right back through the middle to drive in 2.
Tigers got a run in the 9th, made it interesting, but they left the tying run in scoring position. The 0-2 sails outside, fastball in 94 got away. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Verlander himself was good in his own right last night, but that one big hit turned out to be the difference for Minnesota. Driven in the air to left field, hit well. On the move is Don Kelly, still going back, track, wall, leaps. Don Kelly with a catch.
Look out, Don Kelly.
Oh, man. A leaping play over the wall and left.
Jim Leyland would be awfully proud of Don Kelly making that play out there. Of course, Jim Leyland honored before the game here today at Comerica Park. And Don Kelly, well, he was the skipper's favorite player. There was no doubt about that, because he makes plays like that.
There cannot probably be a better feeling for an outfielder than reaching over the wall and pulling back a home run. And Max Scherzer says thank you very much. 2 gone. Great play by Don Kelly. Here is Joe Mauer. He's back in the lineup, was lifted from their lineup on Sunday because of back spasms. Weren't really sure when he was going to be able to come back. Today is the day.
They were thinking about putting him on the disabled list had he not been able to go today.
Bouncing ball right side on the backhand there. Cabrera. Scherzer covers. And it's a 1-2-3 inning for Max Scherzer, highlighted by Don Kelly's leaping play in left.
I'm Brad Osmus, and you're watching Tigers Baseball on Fox Sports Detroit.
What a way to start the day for Don Kelly, saving a home run ball off the bat of Kurt Suzuki.
He did it perfectly. And once he got back to the wall, he knew he had plenty of room to elevate, because he knew how many steps he had once he got to the warning track, and because he was able to elevate without banging into the wall, and he was able to make that play.
So it remains scoreless as we go to the bottom of the 1st inning. And the Tigers will take their first swings this afternoon against the right-hander Kyle Gibson on a gorgeous afternoon. Good day to grab some sunshine and Tigers baseball. Ian Kinsler leads it off for the Tigers. He looks at ball 1 outside. Kinsler 4-game hitting streak now. The average up to .305. He was 1 for 4 in last night's game. Shoots one back up the middle. Straight into center field. Leadoff single. The rest of the Tigers lineup today presented by the Southeast Michigan Ford dealers. You saw Kinsler start things off. He'll be followed this afternoon by Hunter and then Cabrera. Victor, your DH. Jackson in center. Kelly in left. Castellanos 2 out of 4 last night at third base. Avila and Romine rounded out. And They are facing the right-hander Kyle Gibson.
First time the Tigers have ever seen Gibson, but they tell us that he's got heavy sink on his fastball. He's got decent numbers, 3 wins, 2 losses. The ERA is not bad. You look at that one column, the strikes and the walks. He has walked more this year than he has struck out, but he has got an outstanding sinker ball. And because his sinker is so lethal, we might see Brad Ausmus try to combat that today, and by putting a few runners in motion.
Torrey this year at .315 had a hit in last night's ball game, 1 out of 4. Chopped foul at home plate, 1 ball and 1 strike.
A couple of days ago, it was Drew Smiley and Dallas Keuchel of the Houston Astros, who were college roommates and teammates at Arkansas. Today you have 2 products from the University of Missouri in Max Scherzer and Gibson. They weren't there together. He followed Max Scherzer at Missouri.
Separated by 3 years. Kinsler is chased back. Gibson was the prep player of the year in his home state of Indiana before he went to Missouri to play college ball.
Our very own Shannon Hogan also went to the University of Missouri.
So this is a big day for Shannon.
Yeah, it's a huge day for Shannon.
A couple of Tigers, Mizzou Tigers that is, on the hill. There's a check swing low. 2-1 now on Torrey.
We'll see if Mr. Ausmus is in a running mood today with Ian Kinsler. This next pitch will probably give everybody a pretty good idea if that's his game plan this afternoon.
The 2-1 runner holding, and the count goes to 3-1 on Torrey. Hunter's .315 batting average, good for 7th in the American League. Big guy waiting on deck, Miguel Cabrera. Runner goes on 3-1. It's ball 4 up and in. And the Tigers very quickly have 2 men on here in the first inning.
Let's take a look at the Minnesota Twins starting defense. It is brought to you by Tim Hortons. In the outfield, they have Nunez. Eduardo Nunez, he's an infielder by trade, but getting a rep in the outfield today. Hicks, Parmalee along in the outfield with him. Escobar, Santana, Dozier, Colabello in the infield, and Kirk Suzuki, the catcher here at Comerica Park for the 2nd consecutive game.
So an early opportunity now for the Tigers, and they've got the meat of their lineup coming up. Miguel Cabrera last night, 1 out of 4.
Yeah, Miggy just needs to make sure he concentrates and forcing Gibson to get the ball up in the strike zone. No ground balls here for Miguel.
And Cabrera looks at strike 1 as Joe West goes up with the right hand.
Mostly fastballs and sliders. And Gibson will throw to the right-handed hitters. He does not throw many sliders to left-handers. However, he uses a changeup as his off-speed pitch to the left-handers.
Ooh. There goes Kinsler to third, and no throw. Kinsler in safely at third base, and the Tigers now have him at first and third.
That is an example of how the culture has changed here in 2014 with the Detroit Tigers and their running game. Rajai Davis, also Ian Kinsler. Both guys love to steal third base. Look at the jump that Kinsler got here. That's what I talk about when I talk about a walking lead. When I say when a guy gets thrown out, he goes from a standstill position. That was nothing but a really good secondary lead by Kinsler there. That's how you steal third base.
4th steal of the year now for Ian. First and third. The 0-2 is fouled straight back. Brad Ausmus in his first season as the manager of the Tigers was asked before the game today, you know, do you talk to Jim Leyland all that often? He said, yeah, I picked his brain a couple of times this year, talking about certain situations and what he would have done. A tremendous resource for Brad. Bouncing in and blocked at home plate by Suzuki. Nicely done.
And Jim also echoed as much when he was meeting with the media upstairs here before this game started. He said Brad will text him quite often and ask him questions.
Well, if you've got that resource, you might as well use it.
Absolutely. Brad also gets a tremendous amount of help from Dave Dombrowski. With all the rules and all the little nuances and different things that go on that you wouldn't know if you're a first-year manager.
Here's the 1-2. Way outside. 2 balls, 2 strikes on Cabrera.
Dave is one of the most tenured general managers and one of the more respected general managers in the game of baseball. So that's a lot of knowledge for Brad Ausmus to draw from.
I think the Tigers also did a really good job of making sure Brad had some guys around him that certainly knew the personnel well. Guys like Gene Lamont, Jeff Jones.
That was important.
2-2 on Miggy. Nobody out. Tigers threatened here in the first. And it swung on and missed. And not a good swing by Miguel. He was jammed on that pitch, and down he goes. Well, if the Tigers combine for 3 or more home runs in this game, bring a copy of the box score to a participating Arby's location tomorrow. Get a free small order of curly fries. You can find a copy of the box score in your local newspaper or at the Tigers page at foxsportsdetroit.com. So here is Martinez now. Victor is DHing again here today. He was hitless last night in the ball game, and that hasn't happened very often this year for Martinez.
These types of situations right here, runner on third, less than 2 outs, usually no problem for Victor Martinez. Tremendous hand-eye coordination, has a knack and for driving in runs. He's been successful 7 out of 10 times.
Victor last night had an 11-game hitting streak come to an end. Two balls and no strikes. Gibson right now desperately wanting what he does best, and that is getting a ground ball. He gave up a single, a walk, and a steal to start this inning, but he has struck out Miguel Cabrera. And Martinez ahead of the count, 2-0. That is in for a strike. 2-1 now on Victor. Tigers player of the month in April when Miggy was getting off to a bit of a slow start. It was Martinez that was carrying a good portion of the load in the middle of the lineup at least. And Victor now with 19 RBIs. Here's the 2-1. 2-2 on Martinez. After winning 8 straight, Tigers now have lost the last 2. The final game of that Houston series and the opener last night against Minnesota. So the Tigers check in at 20-11. Kinsler at third, Hunter at first base. Gibson a long look at first. Here's the 2-2. Bouncing ball first base side, fielded there by Colabello to second one, and a double play. Gibson gets it when he needed it the most.
Watch the Tigers take on the Twins all weekend on Fox Sports Detroit.
Tigers baseball on Fox Sports Detroit is brought to you by Comerica Bank, a part of Detroit and the community since 1849. By Chrysler, imported from Detroit. And by True Moo Ice Cream and Novelties. Try the all-new True Moo Ice Cream and Novelties from Country Fresh. A truly good thing now in the freezer aisle. One of those days at the ballpark that you just described is absolutely perfect. Sun is shining. No score as we go to the top of the second. On a day in which the Tigers honor Jim Leyland, and Skipper will be joining us in the booth in a little bit. We look forward to chatting with him, catching up with Jim. Chris Colabello leads it off, facing right-hander Max Scherzer. And he delivers strike one to Colabello. Had a base on balls in last night's game. Colabello otherwise was 0 for 3. Average at 265. Good majority of his power numbers coming on the road this year. All 4 of his homers away from target field. 1 ball, 1 strike. Max had a 1-2-3 first inning, helped tremendously though by a great catch from Don Kelly leaping over the wall to the left to pull a home run back. Fouled straight back, 1-2 on Colabello. Off to a spectacular start this year. Colabello had 27 RBIs in the month of April. As you look at his home and road splits, you see that he's done most of his damage on the road. And a strike called on the outside corner, and Scherzer has his 2nd strikeout of the game.
And while we have a moment, let's set the Tigers starting defense today behind Max Scherzer. Don Kelly, he's in left field, already has made a spectacular catch. And Jackson in center, T. Hunter in right, Castellanos, Romine, Kinsler, Cabrera in the infield. And how about Avila? He's already caught 7 base runners trying to steal this year, which is 2nd in the majors.
Tony Kelly has already scaled the wall in left to pull back a home run in this game. There's a bullet into right field, base hit. 1-out single for Parmalee, who had 2 hits in last night's game. Well, here are our predictions for today's Fox Sports Detroit Tigers player of the game, presented by McDonald's new Bacon Clubhouse Chicken Sandwich. And I'm going to go with Ian Kinsler today.
I've got the leader on the field today. That would be Mr. Avila.
I'm told the crew actually picked on Kelly before the game started. So really? It's legit. There's the crew's pick, DK. 1-on-1 out now for Minnesota. Here is Nunez. The ball sails outside, 1-0. Eduardo Nunez at 286. He was picked up in a deal with the New York Yankees back on April the 7th. The Yanks had designated him for assignment right at the beginning of the year. Strike called on the outer edge, 1-1. Nunez, of course, playing in the shadow of Derek Jeter in New York, who is in his final season with the Yankees. Many thought that Nunez might be the guy to take his spot once Derek hung him up, but here he is now wearing Twins colors. Easy toss to first that time by Scherzer. Max has several moves, but as we have told you many times by now, his main way of holding the runner at first base is holding the baseball. Just like he is now, and now he throws back to first. Scherzer has won 4 straight decisions. He's racked up a lot of strikeouts already this year. In fact, every start this season, he's had at least 7.